You're just going to fillet this sucker right off the bone?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Fish Out Northwest, Duane and Tommy Donlin.
This is what you call a bait stop.
Fishing is my kind of style. I love the Quileute when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got.
Hello and welcome to Fish Out Northwest, Duane Inglin, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, Tommy Donlin.
I'm back, baby.
Hey, we are back in studio. How long has it been?
It's been a while.
For an actual live show, not
That's right.
you know having to kind of punt and put up something pre-edited and whatnot to fill the void. But feels good to be back in here.
It does feel good.
It's been a little bit, man. So this is officially our first live event here, 2023. I want to welcome everybody back to the show back here in studio. We got a great show lined up for you this evening, as we do each and every week. Before we get too far along, Tommy, of course, we got to remind folks, especially if you're joining us here first time on Root Sports, jump on over to all our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we're on all of them. Check out our YouTube channel, subscribe so you never miss the announcements of up and coming and new content. And of course, get on over to our webpage where we have a lot going on there. All of our social media platforms can be gotten to, I guess, from our webpage. And you'll see front and center there, Tommy, we're still running the FHN 20. We're still partnered up with Edge Rods. You're going to get the FHN 20 coupon. 20% off all Edge Rods all the time if they're not already attached to some other reduced pricing or coupon event or something like that. And Edge Rods is going to be at the Sportsman Show with a ginormous booth selling tons of rods, and we're going to get on all that later on here in the show about what's coming with these Sportsman Shows. But, you know, it's just, it's that time of year. It just feels busy. There's things to do.
Yep. And then after the shows are over, it's right into our saltwater season and springers and name it.
It just keeps on going. I mean, there's plenty to do right now as we kind of meander our way through this time of year. Given the weather conditions as of late, you got to kind of pick your poison. But there's stuff to go do, and I'm heading out on the road tomorrow. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. A little road trip with Mike Gainsworth and our buddy Matt Messing here starting tomorrow, so that'll be good. But hey, before we keep doing that, meandering along, let's run down the show here. Good one lined up for tonight. Interesting conversation with Bobby Kratzer, Robert Kratzer of Angler's Guide Service. When we were out there fishing with him, Bobby and I took the time to speak on a couple of different topics. And Steelhead, Hatchery, and Broodstock, and the current programs on the Bogachiel and Quileute system, parts 1 and 2, bringing that to you tonight. It's a great conversation, great information. Bobby always brings the knowledge, and it's information you folks will enjoy hearing. And then we get back from that, Tommy, we're going to jump back in the bait lab. Multiple methods of rigging up for Bobber-Doggin. Bobber-Doggin has become a pretty go-to method anymore, finding success on Steelhead this time of year. Have a couple different technique methods and how to rig to kind of show you the differences and when they're applicable based on your water conditions. And then a little short video, a little snippet I took from last week when we were out on the water. Had a little boat tip, little drift boat. And I don't mean like tip in talking on, hey, here's what you want to do. Here's a little tip on when the boat actually tips. So we didn't go all the way over, but we were feeling the stress nonetheless. So we want to talk a little bit about boat safety and a wake-up call safety first. Then we're going to close out the show with some announcements. Kind of already mentioned the Sportsman Show's coming up, the boat show.
You and I are both giving seminars.
We got seminars, prime time. We have some great coupon savings and all the swag at the FHN booth. Going to tell you all about that. Going to have a big booth down there this year, and it's going to be, I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
And I think we're going to see a presence of folks showing up finally this year that we hadn't seen the last couple of years, coming off the heels of COVID.
Right. We were still COVID limited last year. People weren't sure if they wanted to go out. There were still mask restrictions in place. So this year it's full bore. Yeah, full on.
It's going to be good. All right, lots to look forward to. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back, we're going to have the interview segment with Bobby Kratzer, Robert Kratzer, Angler's Guide Service out there on the coast. Don't go anywhere. A couple-minute break. We'll be back right here at Fish on Northwest.
Defiance Marine is the one-stop shop for the Pacific Northwest angler. Defiance Marine guarantees the best price on a new and best service on a repower for your current boat. Defiance Marine is a Honda Premier dealership and one of the largest on the West Coast. Defiance Marine is a boat dealer who proudly sells Defiance, Allied, and Arima boats. All boats are built by West Coast fishermen for West Coast fishermen. Defiance Marine has all your boating needs to help you get out on the water.
If you're looking for the best fishing rods in the world, you really do need to take a look at the Edge rods. I designed and built new machinery, and I think this new machinery has enabled us to build blanks like no other company can build without this equipment. There is no other rods in the world that are as good as these rods. You owe it to yourself to take a good look at them.
For more than 90 years, you've entrusted one brand to guide you towards living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. Now you can entrust affiliated Better Homes and Gardens real estate professionals to interpret your needs and help you find the home in which to live your dreams through every stage of your home buying or selling process. And through every stage of your life, there's Better Homes and Gardens real estate. Expect better.
All right, guys. Hey, we're out here on the water today. My good buddy Bobby Kratzer. Hey, thanks for having me and Matt out here today.
No problem. I love it.
Yeah, awesome. Been a pretty good day of fishing, but you know, we got some stuff I want people to understand about this North Coast. I think one thing is for certain: this last 2 seasons in the season setting process, people really started understanding the difference between what we refer to as South Coast and North Coast.
Oh yeah.
Now you're out here predominantly on the North Coast.
Yep.
No secret. I mean, this river here is one of a few, being the Bogachiel, that we can fish out of the boat.
Correct.
For this season, right? They gave us that back.
Yep.
And their early season returns, and this is what I want you to talk about, is this hatchery program. Got a pretty decent amount of fish coming back early.
Yep.
Let's kind of break that down, what this system now does via the hatchery program, and kind of talk about, we'll kind of get into that previous soul duck broodstock, how it shifted, and that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, basically now you have fish in here. We start catching winter steelhead here middle of November.
Yeah.
You know, you can be fishing for cohos in here, and next thing you know, you got a winter steelhead.
Early steelhead.
Yeah, and they stay early, and then this run will be it's peak kind of right about now, and then you'll have them through early January. Before the wild fish numbers start to appear.
Right.
There are a few wild fish sneaking through here right now, but not very many.
There's pretty decent. I mean, it looks the first time running out to this part of the coast this season, and what we observed today, there seems to be some decent numbers of fish, quality of fish, some nice bright fish.
Yeah.
Not a lot of pressure today, albeit it is midweek, but historically this place would pull people from everywhere.
Yeah, we have to go back a few years. There were some major changes to the hatchery program here, and it has to do with the Quileute and the Bogachiel. And essentially what they did was they took 100,000 fish that used to be planted in the Quileute side, and there's 2 ponds. There's a north pond and a south pond.
Right.
And the south pond is a much larger. It's got a natural spring in it, holds water all year. It's colder. It has natural food in it, and that was the pond that they used on the Quileute, and they used to plant 100,000 fish out of it. But the creek itself is pretty small, and it doesn't have a trap on it.
Oh,
right. And then they used to plant 50,000 in the Bogachiel, and if you remember back in time, we used to do a lot of outplanting, right?
Yeah.
So they would plant a bunch of fish at the hatchery on the Bogachiel, but then they would also plant a bunch out of a truck way up the Bogachiel, up higher.
Gotcha.
And they would just plant them, just spot plant them. And so
would those be imprinted to return to the hatchery?
A lot of them would, but then a lot of them would imprint up there because they would go up there to where they were. They would imprint to where they were released.
Yeah.
And so the state went through that big deal of we want minimal amount of hatchery fish in the system, and so we're only planting them at hatcheries now, and we want traps on all of the systems, right? Yeah. So the South Pond doesn't have a trap.
Oh.
And the North Pond is much smaller.
Right.
So what they did was they took the 100,000 fish that used to be planted in the Solda or the Quileute, and they moved it to the Bogachiel. And then the 50,000 that was planted on the Bogachiel side, they moved to the Quileute side. So they didn't really move it. They just reduced the one side, increased the other. And so
what's the total fish between Quileute and Bogie and how they're 150,000?
150,000, which they've done for years and years and years.
And this is an early returning. This is a December.
This is a Chambers Creek stock.
Yeah, they're really trying to differentiate between those early arrivals for recreational opportunity when they allow us to have one, and those late arriving, natural or wild fish. So I thought I had read this early run, this early hatchery return is in around almost 6,000 this year.
Yep.
If it materializes.
Right.
And with those,
that's forecasted.
That's forecasted.
So that's pre-co-manager catch, catch.
Be curious to see what the hatchery gets and what the recreational impact is. But, it's a favorable year based on ocean conditions. Look at all our other fisheries, and we can name them all. And every one of them overperformed what the preseason forecast was. So I have to assume winter run steelhead out here on the coast is going to hopefully perform better than they anticipated, right? Everybody wins if that's the case.
And I think so. And typically when you see a run that's going to come in stronger, you typically see them early, and you typically see them strong.
Yeah.
And there were some really strong early pushes of these hatchery fish in early November.
Yeah.
Like when they reopened the river from the salmon closure,
right? And
we had a couple little high waters around the 10th of November. There were people over here catching them. They're like, oh, that's a steelhead. Oh, that's a steelhead. And so there was a fair amount caught.
Yeah.
People started kind of really targeting them, kind of having, those double days where you have coho and steelhead. On the same trip.
Which, nice segue. So we are fishing low, clear water.
Yep.
And it's cold out here. I mean, a little bit of snow forecasted today, but it's just barely hovering at freezing.
Right.
Supposed to do it throughout the week.
Right.
If we get a decent amount of snow and then you get snow melt and/or it switches over to rain, we're going to get a nice little water bump here on these rivers, right? And I'm pretty sure, knowing you're like, this is really going to be the telltale sign here. We get a little push of water. Now we're going to see these things, and we get a little of that nice green to the water, and they really get on the snap.
Yep.
So the next few weeks, after this wash, it could be pretty productive out here.
Yeah. There's a lot of fish in the river.
Yeah.
They're not as snappy as we'd like, just with the cold, clear, low conditions. But any kind of bump in the water, they're gonna go, and then it's also the segue into we'll start seeing the
wild
first of our wild fish.
Yeah.
Allied, the new leader in heavy gauge aluminum boats. Allied boats have standard reverse chine and lifting rakes to help you plane faster and run at lower RPMs. Allied boats have several models to choose from, ranging from a 19-foot Mustang all the way up to a 32-foot Liberator. So regardless of what type of heavy gauge aluminum boats you are looking for, Allied Boats will have it for you. Contact Allied Boats today to learn more about these incredible fishing machines.
Hi, this is Joe and Megan from Archery World. We have 4 store locations. We are at the Lacey location right now. I just want to highlight some of our camping gear. We have Mystery Ranch packs. We have Crispy boots. We have 6 Hour optics. We carry Havalon knives. We carry Garmin products as well. So it's not just archery. We want to try to make this one-stop shopping for you guys. And so if you need it and it puts you in the outdoors, we probably have it. So come down and see us.
So you sit on a lot of different organizations, councils, extremely busy. The program that they're doing right now, is there any indication, are you seeing any red flags, anything that worries you that they're working down the road towards cutbacks on this recognized early hatchery program out here?
There's nothing right now. There hasn't been any discussion or anything like that. And partly it's because of our strength of our wild populations here. You know, you look at the North Coast here and we have the Quileute system, which is what we're sitting in right now. You know, we're forecasted to see 3,300 fish above escapement this year, above the wild fish escapement.
Right.
Last year we were around 3,000 fish above that escapement, you know, forecasted. And so if you look at the last 40 years, the Quileute system's only been under escapement twice.
Yeah.
And so we're in a much different situation
than
we are down south.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So being that that's the case, there's not a lot of talk around this hatchery program here and decreasing it or doing anything with it. And we actually have, you know, I mean, they actually show numbers that we could even increase the population, right?
Gotcha.
And so,
why not?
You know, you actually could based on your wild fish numbers.
Sure.
And so there's not a lot of discussion around that.
No.
But there's no discussion in removing this. There was a talk about, you know, we had the Snare Creek Broodstock program over on the Soul Duck.
Right.
And when that Soul Duck became a wild gene bank, there was discussion about moving the wild broodstock over to here.
I remember that. Yeah.
And moving it onto the Quileute and the Bogachiel. And we did that, and we had it for a few years, and then it kind of wasn't performing to the level that we liked or the state liked or anything, so we were discussing how we were going to do it differently and make it better. One of the discussions that came along with the broodstock was not only did we want to broodstock like the whole season, like collect fish from November clean till May.
Sure. Maximize the run return.
And get a whole makeup of the wild broodstock program.
Yeah.
But in that, one of the discussions was, do we do a broodstock program, a complete broodstock program, to where you do that and then eventually you build that program up enough to where you have that, and then you kind of somewhat get rid of this program, right? You start eliminating this program to go to the full broodstock program. And as good as that sounds, and as much as we were like, yeah, okay, let's, but when you started talking about it, first of all, when you just do the broodstock program, now we're going to have these broodstock fish coming back throughout the whole time frame, right?
Including like earlier arrivals with the hatchery fish.
Right, but during the whole wild fish population, during the wild fish runs and everything.
Sure.
Which we're like, well, that could increase the pressure on the wild fish.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? But if we get enough numbers, if they allow us to plant enough fish,
right?
You know, that's the key is you got to plant enough fish.
Yeah.
You can't plant 25,000 fish and expect any kind of a return back. It's not going to happen. You got to plant 100, 150,000 of them to get a solid return.
Yep.
And then you could have a program.
Yeah.
But the idea was for us to eventually eliminate this Chambers Creek stock here.
Yeah. Which they've done in a lot of other areas, right?
That was a big concern for us because out here, if from what we've seen with broodstock programs is you can collect wild broodstock fish. They're going to act like a wild fish.
Yeah.
They're going to return like a wild fish.
That's all they know.
So they're going to return at the same time the wild fish do.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of wild fish in November or December.
Right.
So basically we'd be eliminating this program, which would eliminate this season.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so for some of us, we're like, not sure that we want to, we've already lost so many fisheries.
It makes sense. You can't put in what you don't have.
Right. We've already lost so many fisheries that we're not sure that we really want to lose all of December, latter November, December, and early January.
We've lost December on a number of rivers, including the entire Quileute program.
Yeah.
Right. Which sustained for years. A lot of guides made their living on the Cowlitz year-round. They've totally changed the timing on a number of those runs and what they contribute to that fishery. So, and it's cause and effect. That also trickles down out into the Columbia during salmon season, and just, you know, to set all the models and the numbers. So, yeah, if we can stop minimizing or reducing and or removing December steelhead programs in some of these rivers that continue to prove that they do well and the wild fish numbers are not impacted, then we do have a right, I feel, in the state of Washington to continue to provide this opportunity to recreational anglers.
Right.
So.
And broodstocks they're a wonderful program, and we really missed the one on the Soul Duck. But our broodstock program on the Soul Duck was designed to do one thing, and that was to help the early timed wild steelhead population excel.
Yes.
So I still believe that we could do a wild broodstock program.
But it wasn't conflicting with a hatchery program.
It was not conflicting with the hatchery program. It was just its own program.
Yep.
And it really did help the
It was
Soul
tremendous.
Duck,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
maintain the early wild population of steelhead. And it's still, today, if you want to catch early steelhead, wild steelhead in any kind of numbers, it's a Soul Duck.
Yeah.
And it has them like in, you know, by the end of November, end of December, January, you start seeing good populations where a lot of places don't see good population of wild fish until February and March and April.
Yep.
And so it did what it was designed to do. And I do feel like there's be a place in the Bogachiel or the Quileute to collect early timed fish and help the early timed steelhead kind of stay strong and so forth. Or do it like in the Hoe or you know, there's a lot of places we can do it.
Absolutely. Well, solid information, my friend, as always. That's why we lean on you to bring it out, educate the folks as to what's going on out here in the North Coast, and you always hit it out of the park, so thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, that's going to do it for us here on this stretch of river with Robert Kratzer, Bobby, as I referred to him, and Angler's Guide Service. We are going to jump out for a quick break. We'll be back in studio right after this.
Contract Security Service provides day-to-day peace of mind as they protect people and property. Here at Phoenix, we provide service for multiple state and federal contracts with services ranging from uniform, patrol, alarm monitoring, canine detection, executive protection, as well as investigative work. Recruiting highly qualified officers is the first step in building a strong team. If you are prior military or law enforcement, go to www.phoenixprotectivecorps.com and apply today.
New days. New beginnings, new friends, new loves, new dreams, new goals, new scenery, new job. No matter what the next chapter holds, Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate will be there to help you find the new that's right for your lifestyle at any stage of your life. Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. Expect better.
Sportco, an outdoor emporium, is the largest local outfitter in the Northwest since 1975, providing thousands of people affordable outdoor gear. This summer, make your next outdoor adventure more affordable by shopping at our warehouse-style pricing. We are a local Scotty dealer, offering sales, service, and repair. Located in Fife and Seattle, come visit us today. The outdoors await you.
Yep, for sure. Oh yeah, big fish. Yeah, buddy, nice fish. Oh, beauty, gorgeous fish.
Bobby's on the board.
We got a good one.
Oh yeah. Oh, geez, come on.
Nice fish, nice fish.
Well, hey, welcome back in studio. Hopefully you enjoy that. You know, Robert Kratzer, Bobby, is just such a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, he's got it dialed in.
He's involved in so many groups. We've had him on here a number of times as a guest, and we always try to remember to kind of walk through all the organizations he's either president, vice president for, and the Washington, Guide Association, of which we support in their endeavors. And there's just a whole lot of work and effort behind the scenes. And when we sit there with these preseason forecast meetings, and we listen to what the state is proposing that we get to do or don't get to do, and the fact that out there in that system, a couple of those rivers we got to actually fish out of the boat again this year. Now, that being said, when Matt and I went out there to team up with Bobby and spend a day, not only fishing, but conducting some of these interview question answer things, because I wanted to get this information out there for people just to help educate, right?
For sure.
The water is extremely low and clear, stark contrast to what's going on now, but you know, so we were literally fishing out of the boat because it was conducive to do so.
Right. Even though you could fish from the boat in that river system if you wanted to, right?
And in the few videos that I've been able to put together from that information we put together on that day, you can watch and see that we are literally fishing out of the boat at times. But it's all based on conditions, and that time of year and what was going on then prior to all this rain finally showing up. It was basically like picking pockets. And so as we move forward here in the show tonight, second half of the show, we're going to get into the bait lab there and show a couple of different ways of rigging that bobber-dogging style that was so effective out there in low, clear water.
Perfect.
Differences, right? So, but to spend a day with Bobby and not just fish, but to talk about management of fisheries, him having a voice for the various guides, associations, and affiliations, and really he puts in a tremendous amount of time in these meetings, talking with the program directors and fishery managers and the biologists, and he really has his thumb on the pulse out there in the Forks area in that Quileute system. And so it's well worth listening to him to get that component of it. There's fishing, and then there's all the other things we constantly are talking about and trying to understand. It's complicated.
Yeah, it is.
It's complicated.
It is a mess.
It is a mess.
So there's 6,000 fish coming back to the Bogachiel. Did you see a lot of pressure out there? Were you guys the only ones on the water?
No, there's a handful of guys that, you can walk in below the hatchery there and fish the bank, and guys have been doing pretty good there. It's been off and on. That front push of that hatchery run is starting to taper off. Okay. And the plan was to head out to the coast this weekend. Ainsworth and Matt Messing and I, we're going to head out there and do some fishing, get some content. But river's going straight up, and they're going to be dropping, I think, maybe by Sunday. Thereby, we're heading to the east side, go do something different over there. But yeah, the plan was to get back out there. Now, that being said, some of these rivers are open until March, into February, into March, and water's going to drop, and we're going to have opportunities. So I'm looking forward to get back out of the coast a couple more times before the end of the season. So,
and maybe if we're lucky, you'll even drag me along, and I can catch my first steelhead.
That would be fantastic. All right, it's going to do it for us on the first half of the show here on Root Sports. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. If you are tuning in live this evening on the live stream, stick around. Got the second half of the show and a bait lab coming up right after the break, right here, Fish Hunt Northwest.
Hi, we're Joe and Megan Malico, owners of Archery World up here in Lacey.
We're a full pro shop, so we have a full pro service also. We have a huge indoor range. We carry 11 bow lines, all the major bow lines, and then there's subsidiary companies too. Like if we carry Bowtech, we carry Diamond. If we carry Matthews, we carry Mission.
When you come in, we're going to ask you, what kind of price point you're looking for. What's your hope, what's your goals with your bow. And with that information in mind, we'll point you in the direction of, that price point bows, and then maybe give you the option to test fire, maybe a higher level bow, just so you can compare. But it really is all about getting what it is that's going to work for you.
We don't upsell anyone. They shoot it, they like it. If they don't like it, they don't get it. We don't operate like that. And so if you need it and it puts you in the outdoors, we probably have it. So come down and see us.
Hey, welcome back here at Fish Hunt Northwest. We are in the bait lab. Finally, Tommy, we're back in the bait lab, and bait lab, all items, everything you see here can be found at Sportco or OE. All bait labs are brought to you by Sportco and OE. So tonight, I want to talk a little bit about bobber-dogging. Now, we've covered bobber-dogging for years here on the show and have been doing it literally since about 2004. There's a reason for that. It's very efficient, very effective. You can cover lots of water, and it's a very useful tool in finding fish, especially when you're on the move in a drift boat or otherwise. Covering water, covering ground, it's a great way to find fish. So the classic style, I've been showing you guys this for years. I'm fishing a 9.5 or 10-foot rod, loaded up with usually 30, 40-pound braid, depending if it's spinning or bait caster. I like to fish my bait casters. Top shot of at least, say, 20, 25 feet sometimes. You can bump that down to 12, 15 if you like. I like to have a little extra, so if I do break stuff off, I have plenty throughout the day, not always retime my top shot. So the running gear does all its work on the top shot. So we start off here. We got our rubber bobber stop. That's the first key component that goes on to your top shot. That's where the business end stops. That's what you're gonna set your depth, right? And we're bobber-dogging, we're dragging lead. The float isn't presenting vertically up and down the water column. It's laying over in the river current on the surface, is pushing it down river. The float works in unison with the weight dragging. Again, we're not trying to achieve a vertical presentation. We want the bobber laying over. So if you are bobber-dogging and you are vertical, you need to deepen up your presentation by sliding your rubber bobber stop towards the tip of your rod. So now, with today and everything that's available, we have floats that are conducive to bobber-dogging. I'm going to get into a different presentation here in a little bit. You'll see I'm not using a bobber-dog float, but if what I'm trying to do is achieve a float laying flat on the surface of the water, I'm going to go ahead and use one that is cupped and designed for bobber-dogging because it just does a much better job in capturing surface current and pushing your presentation downriver. So between the rubber bobber stop and the bobber, I like to put some type of indicator. Usually I'll use an off-colored cheater or a corky just to indicate that my float has maxed out and I know I'm fishing to depth, okay? It's just my depth indicator. Underneath that, I put a protection bead. Now for me, I also like to put on a secondary bobber stop underneath my bobber. In the event I break this swivel off, I'm not gonna lose all my gear, okay? That bobber stop underneath your float really helps in preventing you from losing everything. I use a 3-way swivel or an inline barrel swivel with a clasp, much like you rig for drift fishing, and that is what we hang our stick lead off of. And yeah, I still use the stick leads, tried and true. They've worked for years, very little snag, very little hang up, and they get the job done. Okay, now leader length. So one thing about bobber-dogging, on some rivers it's allowable to use a double rig setup. Check your rigs. Most places, especially on the coast and whatnot, we're down to a single point, single barbless, single presentation. But on some of the rivers, we're still able to fish a double rig. So this one here is tied up in a double rig. So that first leader length from your swivel to your first presentation. Here I'm using a Yarny of sorts, and there's a lot of different combinations of colors and whatnot you can use. Yarnies are great because the way they float naturally in the water and the presentation size, and if you're mixing colors and using color contrast to your advantage, that's fantastic. Simply by adding some scent, some crayfish oil, some sand shrimp oil, Atlas Mike's lunker oils to your Yarnies, you actually increase the buoyancy because the oil likes to float. So by absorbing it into your yarn, it not only adds a little extra scent to your presentation, but it gives you a little extra buoyancy just naturally with the oil lifting your presentation up. I'm pinning the Yarny much like I would a bead, a couple inches from my hook. And so if I'm fishing a single, I'm gonna run that leader out 28 to 30 inches, no longer than that. Most times it's probably 24 to 28, okay? If I'm tying on a second rig, I'll have that second bead or something different from what I'm presenting on the top. I don't want two of the same exact sizes, colors, or presentation. Oftentimes I'll run a Yarny and I'll run a bead of smaller size and differences in colors. Oftentimes I'll run a peach and a pink or a vibrant orange and some type of pink, but I want different colors and contrast, and I want different size and presentation. So that's the standard bobber-dogging rig, right? We're using a bobber-dogging float. I have my stick lead hanging there. And where permissible, I'm using a dual rig presentation that's just drifting along, meandering along as the float pushes it down the current seam and finds those travel lanes where the fish are going to be. Okay, that works great in most applications and water levels, clarity, and whatnot. An option that has become much more popular in lower and clear water, okay, a different means of rigging that's proven to be pretty effective is going back to a 1/2 ounce standard torpedo float. Don't need to use a Bobber-Doggin float. Now I have the top shot on here, and hey Jordan, we're gonna take a break real quick. Jump out for a quick break. We're gonna be back here in just a minute.
A Northwest favorite for almost 40 years, Arima boats are manufactured with pride in Bremerton, Washington. All Arima boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why Arima boats are backed with a lifetime warranty. Arima can offer every boat with Honda outboard packages so that you can take advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Call or stop by Arima Boats today and let them help you get into your very next boat.
If you're looking for the best fishing rods in the world, you really do need to take a look at the Edge rods. I designed and built new machinery, and I think this new machinery has enabled us to build blanks like no other company could build without this equipment. There is no other rods in the world that are as good as these rods. You owe it to yourself to take a good look at them.
All right, welcome back. We are still here in the bait lab. Going to finish up here showing you this alternative method when bobber-dogging in. How to rig for, say, lower water conditions, clearer water conditions. Again, I'm not using the standard bobber-dogging float, so I'm reverting back to a 1/2 ounce or a 3/4 ounce inline torpedo float, and I'm rigging that on my top shot. And yes, I do put the rubber bobber stop above the float. Now, depending on the depth of water, the way I'm rigging this, I'm either pinning this float to fish it at the depth of this extended leader basically I have under the weight, or I am having to deepen it up by simply pushing it towards the top of the rod to gain a foot or two of overall depth, because this will slide down through. So pretty simple rig. Again, corky or cheater above the float, stops against the bobber stop. Now we're putting a bead for protection, and I'm putting an inline sinker. So this here is a 1/2 ounce Bomac torpedo float. I have a 3/8 ounce inline weight, okay? To that I am putting a piece of leader material on here that can be 3 or 4 feet long. Now the key here is a second piece of weight component that I attach to this. This is 1/8 inch size hollow core lead that we use for stick leads and other weighting devices. This is what's going on that first leader piece, 3 to 4 foot piece of leader, right above my barrel swivel. And I'm using a size 7, maybe in summer conditions, or when I'm really getting it to a smaller presentation, I'll go down to a 10. But a 7 typically will get it done. Now I can put this piece of lead, this hollow core lead, on this strand of leader above the barrel swivel, and I can crimp that on there with my pliers to hold it in place, okay? You can do that, or I try not to crimp my leader material ever and don't like to put dents in it or stress points. So I put a bobber stop right above that little lead that just holds it in position right above the swivel. If I wanted to, I could even put a bead there, but it's really not necessary to protect that knot with this little piece of lead. So as this presents in the water, if it's deep enough, this will, in fact, lay over as it's going. Let's terminate that down to the bottom end. So this weight here, their first weight in line is more so for castability. Second weight is to get the presentation down near the bottom where your offering needs to be. And from there, I'm running about a 20-inch leader to whatever it is I'm presenting out there. Here we got a 12 millimeter soft bead with a hard bead insert as the offering that I'm presenting. So this is and does in fact function as a bobber-dog presentation. Again, if this float is going through the water column straight up and down vertically, and I'm really trying to present this in a bobber-dogging fashion, so I can look at this and go, well, I got overall about 4.5 or 5 feet. I can deepen that up to ensure that this weight typically will still be suspended. Your lower weight, that small 1-inch piece of 1/8 inch hollow core, is going to be down near the bottom. Now, I will tell you this little piece of weight will get hung up or likes to catch rocks a little more often than your typical bobber-dogging stick lead weight, okay? Just from past experience of when I have spent a day fishing both presentations in various types of water, this little thing likes to grab, but it doesn't really get hung up all that hard, and a simple pop on the tip of the rod, it typically gets it out. The other thing you got to keep in mind is that your standard bobber-dogging style with the slip float rig and 6, 7, 8 feet of travel of your top shot through the float to where it comes back down and bottoms out, so you're casting basically a float, a lead, and whatever your leader length is. This one here, because you're pinning your float above this weight, and it could be a foot or two, however far you move this up your line, that's just adding more length to your overall presentation that you are casting. And with a bait caster, it can be a little more problematic when that float is at the tip of your rod and you have, say, 5 or 6 feet of line, lead, more line, secondary lead, and then ultimately your leader and your presentation hanging from the tip of your rod. So just be aware of your surroundings. The guys were laughing at me because I was pitching a double rig off of this inline weight and bobber system, which probably put a good 7 feet of multiple presentations in line below the float from the tip of the rod down, and casting with a bait caster in a drift boat can, again, be problematic unless you're paying attention to what's going on. So you can build these however you want to, single presentation, dual presentation. Again, it's much more conducive for fishing in low clear water. You only need about 3 to 4 feet, again, from below the float, that first strand of leader material to your barrel swivel, 3 to 4 feet. Then you're going to fish about 20 inches of leader. So all in all, you're maybe, ultimately 5 feet below your float. Very easy to manage. And the way it travels through the water and presents that offering right down there where those fish are laying in pockets behind rocks and whatnot, for low water and the ideal conditions, this is the bobber-dogging style for smaller presentation that I prefer. One quick thing before we get out of here, a lot of times we talk about steelhead fishing and color contrast. Something that's really easy to do, and pretty much anybody can do it. You can utilize a worm threader or even a spinner shaft. Okay, these are like 35 thousandths on your spinner shaft. I can take a hard plastic bead, 4, 5, 6 millimeter, okay, and I can put that onto this spinner shaft right there. Then I can take a somewhat translucent bead. I ran out of clears, but I have these light pinks and I have this orange that's almost translucent. And I can literally, to create some color contrast in the bead, and at times this works very well based on just changing up the offering. I put that on the spinner shaft, and now I just pull that soft bead right over the top of that hard plastic bead. And again, depending on the size of soft bead that I am fishing, I can run a 4, 5, 6 millimeter bead inside of there. So there you go. That's that looks like a dead egg or the beginning of a fertilized egg, simply by creating color contrast. Sometimes that is absolutely a game changer. This one here, not sure if you can see it. This has a bright pink bead inside of that almost translucent pink bead or pearl bead. So it's just a means of providing more than one color contrast. When steelhead fishing has been proven for years, really works well in catching their eye and perhaps driving them to come over and check out what it is they're exactly seeing versus one solid color that they may not be interested in. So just a couple different technique points here, Bobber-Dogging presentations and the opportunity to, try different things when you're out on the water. All right, going to jump out for a quick break. We come back, we'll be back in studio, talk about some safety tips when it comes to running drift boats out there on the river. Back in a couple minutes right here at Fish on Northwest.
A Northwest favorite for almost 40 years, Arima boats are manufactured with pride in Bremerton, Washington. All Arima boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why Arima boats are backed with a lifetime warranty. Arima can offer every boat with Honda outboard packages so that you can take advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Call or stop by Arima Boats today and let them help you get into your very next boat.
If you're looking for the best fishing rods in the world, you really do need to take a look at the Edge rods. I designed and built new machinery, and I think this new machinery has enabled us to build blanks like no other company could build without this equipment. There is no other rods in the world that are as good as these rods. You owe it to yourself to take a good look at them.
All right, welcome back here in studio. Yeah, I just I had to take a quick break there, man. I was just talking and talking. All of a sudden, I'm like, I just feel like I can't even catch my breath here, trying to just talk too much.
You're so excited talking about Bobber-Dogging.
I'm just so excited to be back in here, Bobber-Dogging, and I think if we would have been talking kokanee, I might have passed out.
Yeah, it could happen.
So anyway, I appreciate everybody asking. I had a moment there. I was like, I wasn't able to catch my breath, and I felt like I was stumbling on my words. So I just had to take a quick break there. No big deal. Glad to be back in here. Hey, so Tommy, this last week, Ainsworth and Messing and I, we got out. We decided to go fish a Southwest Washington River that, believe it or not, you can fish out of your boat. You can use bait. You can use double rigs like I was showing there in the bait lab. You can actually steelhead fish. It was fantastic.
That's beautiful.
90% chance of rain. It sprinkled on us a little bit in the morning, and then it was dry all day long.
Perfect.
The fishing was great. We got into a few steelhead, got a couple nice big fatty trout in what we were presenting. We pulled some plugs. We, fished. Ainsworth and I were just having a great day, just like fishing old times. And he did really well with his rag presentation with a little scent, and we got some on bait. Just it was just an all-around good day. Unfortunately, we had some sound issues with our videoing, and so I'm only going to be able to use bits and pieces of some of the content we actually got that day, which, I mean, it happens, right? You go out there, there's a lot going on, and so, but the one thing I want to emphasize here is that I've been on that river a lot. When I first started rowing a drift boat, that was the river I was constantly going to in the springtime, going after steelhead and springers, and just, I'm very familiar with the river. It's more of a canyon type of an environment. The river doesn't change much, literally at all. It's been the same way for 20 whatever years I've been rowing a drift boat. And I'll be the first to say, look, I am not one of the top-notch guys that I'm not going to go row the bogey or the soul duck and stuff, because I just don't put enough time in out there. And if I want to go out there and fish, I don't want to worry about rowing those rivers. I'm just going to fish with people that do. These rivers in my backyard have been rowing for years. Have all the confidence in the world, avoiding wood structures and trees, and just how to navigate down the river and stay out of trouble. This particular river, there's a hard corner up against a rock wall that's been there forever, and the flows were up a little bit this last week. I didn't think much of it going into it. It's just another day on the river, been there. So at the end of it, was it like complacency, overconfidence, a comfort level that you're just accustomed to? So no big deal. PFD's on the boat, tucked underneath the seat so they stay nice and dry.
Right.
Okay. So there's a few reminders and a few takeaways from this this little unsettling moment that we experienced there. Fortunately, we pulled out of it, bounced out, and you'll see we drained the water out of the boat. But It's a good it's a good reminder, and I want to run this couple-minute video, show you guys a little. If you are familiar with being in a drift boat, you'll probably kind of see the unstableness there for a little bit. If you're not familiar with running a drift boat, you may just look at this and go, "I don't get it. What's the big deal?" So we're going to roll the video right now, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Talk about some tips for safety and things to keep in mind when you're navigating a river. Distribution. Well, you know, Matt's riding in the back, and this is a low-sided boat. We went through that last little rip there. It's got a pretty good boil at this flow. Turned the corner a bit. Bottom to the back end dipped down, and water came over. Fortunately, holy cow, I knocked off my whole thing on there. Fortunately, we didn't lose Matt. So, the old rip tech. It keeps going, Mike. Oh, we got about 50 gallons.
It's a good reason to teach people that haven't been in a drift boat before about the high side and the low side.
Might have been a good place for PFDs to be one as well. But, you know, safety first. Safety last. So anyway, yeah, Max, historically in the past too, yes, I have shot between the rocks in the past, and it's a little safer, but there's two large boulders over there on the right-hand side. And if you set up and come down there on the far right and drop through that, you're going to skirfle on the top of that boil and kind of push your way on out of there. I came down around that corner, and I was just like, oh, it looks like it's going to kind of shove me right to the wall, but I've rode that one probably as much as ever going through the rocks, and so I just felt like I could just keep it off the wall. And as the current comes in off of that boil and there's that strong current seam going right along the wall, I just figured I'd ride that current on top.
Yeah.
No big deal, just, you know, and it just popped me out at the bottom end of it there. But as it got into there, it kind of stalled, and I was pulling to keep off of the wall. And the front of the boat got up there a little bit. Now I put this video out on our Facebook page here this last week, and guys were saying, hey, the guy in the front of the boat should have sat down. I'm like, yeah, I mean, Mike could have sat down. It didn't, his weight distribution didn't do.
Right, because it's not like he was moving forward after side to
he
side.
just held on to the side, and he just kind of turned around and looked. And I mean, he rows a drift boat.
Right,
you know,
he kind of turned around and gave the, hey, what's going on back there, look.
Matt was sitting in the back. Matt's a good-sized kid. You know, he's a little
good anchor in the back there.
Yep. And that boat, that Rift Tech, is a moderately low-sided, you know, fly fishing model. It's like it doesn't have the high sides on it. It's pretty low. And as we were kind of rolling along, you can see on that side camera. I mean, I don't have a lot of freeboard to that top side of that gunnel wrap. So as we got in that corner, it pitched up a little bit. It didn't take much for that back right corner of that boat to kind of dip down. And as I look, got all this water coming in. Matt and Mike both leaned to the left, which allowed it to kind of pop back up, and then we just, you know, floated off of there, and it was over before we knew it. But hindsight's 20/20, and you know, the top end of that particular river on a couple of those spots is probably where you should have your PFD on. They don't do any good being stuffed under the seat. There are stretches of river that you can float day after day and never require PFD. There's nothing challenging.
Right.
If you're one that lacks the ability to swim, right?
Then, yeah.
Or understand how current takes you down and sweeps you into strainers and over and under you know, obstacles that could kill you, you should probably wear your PFD.
Well, that's the big concern, right? Is that you've got a log underwater there where if you fall in at that given spot, you're going to get sucked under.
Potentially.
And you don't know if you may be sucked under and stay under, or you may pop back up the other side.
Yeah, not everybody who fishes and rows drift boats has done like water rescue, swift water rescue for 18 or 20 years either.
Right.
So if I find myself in a river, I know how to point my body directionally. I know how to let the current take me where it wants to go. I know how to avoid obstacles, and I also know how to swim out when it's appropriate, when you can turn out of it and roll into a back eddy and get out of there. That's stuff that you practice in dry suits with PFDs and do it over and over and over again. You're actually navigating the water as you are in the water, right? Most people, if you dump a boat, you are panicked for good reason, extremely cold.
Right.
And if the cold doesn't get you very quickly, then, you know, you are, you're subjected to just not being able to function very good because you've never been in this situation before.
Sure,
You don't have years of water rescue training.
Yeah.
You don't understand what the current's going to do, especially if you're not the person rowing the boat.
Right.
Okay, so...
because you could be fishing, and so you're not really necessarily paying attention to the current, where it's going, how it's moving the boat, or right? And so you get dumped in the water, you don't even know which way to swim, maybe.
Yeah, now you're a suspended load in the water, and the current's going to take you where it wants to take you. And you could waste a lot of energy trying to get out of the water too quickly. It'd be kind of like a riptide.
Sure.
If you don't know how to get out of a riptide,
right,
you're going to exhaust yourself trying to get out of the riptide.
Right, trying to get back to shore.
Yeah.
Right.
So most folks don't ever have that training, right? So
or the thought process,
Yeah,
right.
Hindsight, you know, with the flows where it was at, I just underestimated how hard it would push me into that particular area, and I probably should have been way to the right. And I also didn't give it a second thought about Matt being in the back and how low, with the gear and Matt and everything, the boat was truly riding in the back. We were going to spend the day fishing and filming, which we did, and for a majority of it, his vantage point, running cameras and things from back there, it works out pretty well. We should have started the morning off in that upper end. That you know, I should have had both guys up front.
Sure.
Would have alleviated a lot of the weight distribution towards the back. The back end would have been a lot higher. I should have taken that line clear to the right.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say that.
Okay, so for the folks that are watching that have never, you know, really rowed a drift boat, so your recommendation to them would be start out on that particular river when the flow's not so high. Always wear your PFD. I mean, what would you tell somebody that's brand new to a given river?
Well, so I see a lot of that on social media, and guys are like, yeah, I want to get a drift boat, but I don't know. So, I mean, first thing is you go put it in a lake. You start rowing around, right? The next step in that progression is you get somebody in your boat that knows how to row a drift boat, and you have them take you in your boat. And they give you instruction as you navigate down the river. And you go to a river that's pretty easy. In other words, not any tremendous rapids or rapid sets or currents that you got to fight your way through, more so obstacle avoidance. How to put the bow towards the obstacle and how to row away from it and continue to move downriver, right? The first thing most people do when they get into a drift boat and they're going towards something is they want to turn the boat the opposite way and they want to push forward. And you think you're going to, it's over here, so if I can just push the boat this way, I'm not going to hit it.
Right, but the current's going to take you.
Current's going to take you that way. So
Right.
you're always positioning with your bow towards the obstacle you don't want to hit, and
away.
you're rowing back from it.
Yeah.
So, and it just takes a while to understand, you know, watching the surface, understanding the obstructions and how it's creating the path that you're going to navigate, the V's on the top of the water to indicate which direction you want to go. And again, there's a lot of rivers in this state I haven't rowed, and there's a good number of rivers I have rowed and feel very comfortable and successful in putting my boat on a number of rivers after so many years. But mistakes can happen.
Sure.
And I just, for me, I honestly believe that morning going into it with a plan of what Mike and Matt and I were trying to do, it's just complacency. I have floated that river a ton, especially more so in the spring when the flows are a little lower, and I've put a handful of trips in down there in the wintertime, never had an issue before.
Right.
But, you know, this one just kind of caught me off guard. It was a combination. And really, when you always look at how incidences or tragedies could have been avoided. It's a series of small events.
Yeah, multiple things
that come into play all simultaneously to ultimately end in a bad outcome.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So when I go back and look at this, I'm like, Matt shouldn't have been in the back.
Right.
I should have PFDs on, not been overconfident. I should have picked a better line going into that thing.
Yeah. No alignment in the back of the boat. Got it.
Yes. So anyway, just, a good topic to review from time to time. Sherry, but you're getting older, Duane. Put it on. Oh, she's going to put that on the next FHM
really?
T-shirt, right? You're getting older, Duane. Put it on. Yeah. So, it's hey, we're still here by the grace of God, and we had a successful day. And it was after that we started getting into fish.
I bet it was exciting for a moment there.
It was exciting for a little bit, and then we were having that discussion as we're pumping the water out of it. And a handful have asked what hand pump that was. Look, you can get those hand pumps in various models at your sporting goods stores. That one there just happens to be made by Scotty. They sell them down there at Sportco or OE.
Right.
It's a great thing to have in your boat. A lot of guys carry buckets and whatnot. I advocate for a hand pump, or if you want to really step it up, you put a little bilge pump in your drift boat.
There you go.
And then you just hit the switch.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that was my takeaway from that day. Look, we had a great day, and we had a little bit of a bumpy start. Wanted to share that with you guys. Trust me, it can happen anytime. I'm not ashamed to admit that. Hey, we made a few mistakes. Fortunately, it turned out okay. And the boats are on the trailers, and we're heading east for the weekend, so I'm pretty excited about that.
There we go.
Anyway. All right, we're going to jump out for a quick break. Appreciate everybody sticking around here. We come back, Tommy, we're going to break it down, man. We got some sportsman shows, boat shows, seminars, things going on sale at the FHN booth, a whole bunch of things to cover here in a short amount of time. Don't go anywhere. Jump out for a break. We'll be back right here at Fish on Northwest.
All Defiance boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why all boats are backed with a lifetime warranty. All Defiance boats come standard with large fish boxes that are fully insulated so that you can ice your fish properly all day. All Defiance boats are foam flotation filled and unsinkable for the ultimate in safety while fishing offshore. Before you buy any boat, stop by or call Defiance Boats today to ensure you are getting the very best glass boat your money can buy. Cutbacks in funding and fewer law enforcement resources are affecting our businesses and communities. If your business is feeling the effects, Phoenix Protective may be the solution you are looking for. They offer security solutions customized to meet your needs. From remote video monitoring in their 24-hour control center to a proactive, experienced security professional on site, Phoenix Protective has over 20 years experience in ensuring the safety of their customers. Team members are highly trained and proactive, giving them the ability to adjust to the changing needs of their customers. Customers choose to work with Phoenix Protective because they provide the next level in security support to industries such as schools, hospitals, transit, and utilities. For a security assessment to see how Phoenix Protective can help you and your business, visit their website at www.phoenixprotectivecorps.com and select Contact.
All right, welcome back here in studio as we wind down the show. Good discussion there, Tommy. Appreciate you weighing in, though you haven't spent much time.
Well, it's a new world for me, so I'm curious,
Yeah.
I mean, weight distribution is important no matter what boat you're in.
Sure.
And I mean, what comes to mind is when I'm running on the ocean and I've got a big following sea, really making sure that you don't have weight in the bow of that boat, because that's when you can get bow steer and you can get pitch pulled and it's game over just like that.
Or you have your trim tabs totally in the wrong position.
That's right. You're too far bow down, you're pushing the bow down. So you want to be bow up, you want your weight in the back. Totally.
Yeah. Unlike here, I didn't want all that weight in the back.
Right.
You, my friend, are a front seat boat, drift boat passenger.
Oh, amen to that.
That I assure you, yes. Hey, as we wind it down, Tommy, we got some stuff coming up here, and we're going to remind folks over the next several weeks as we get into this. Sportsman shows are back, and I think, and we kind of mentioned at the start of the show, what we were subjected to the last few years, and last year we had a good-sized booth there at Puyallup, and we did very well, and it was nice to see everybody and whatnot, and we kind of stayed away from the Portland, doing the whole thing down there just because we didn't know how it was going to materialize when, as you had said, we were kind of still on the heels of that whole COVID, stuff. So this year, 10 by 20 booth.
Full speed ahead.
Teamed up with Max, so we got an overall 40-foot space there. Shing has been working day in and day out, just adding to the inventory, spending the money, and building our inventory because we have a lot of great new items to bring, different hat designs, all kinds of great stuff. And so we're starting off Washington Sportsman Show at the Puyallup Fairgrounds, February 1st through the 5th. I'm back to doing seminars apparently this year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Prime time too, right?
Huh?
Saturday 4 p.m.?
Yes, Saturday 4 p.m. They gave me a prime time, no doubt. Saturday 4 p.m. And I'm going to cover basically, now you think I'm, catching bait, but this is...
No.
So we're going to talk downriggers, flatlining, and side planing for triploids, trophy rainbow, trophy kokanee, right? And some of these bigger bodies of water where I've been running my large size side planers and how that system performs in the outlet and how I, develop that and really the advantages to doing those types of fisheries because it's a progression. And I'm going to walk you folks through the progression of side planer, kind of where you can start out at, and then when you want to up your game, really the benefits of doing that. And then other bodies of water to go conquer because you have confidence in the ability to run 6, 7, 8 rods, which is a game changer, right? And it's a heck of a lot of fun. So, and you can get some really good quality fish doing this, right?
Yeah.
Takes a little effort.
And kokanee is tasty, don't get me wrong.
Oh, man.
But kokanee is also the #1 halibut bait, okay?
As we learned
down.
last night in your presentation.
Yes.
Yes, 10 to 11 inch kokanee are the #1 halibut bait. Anything 15 inches and larger either goes on the grill or smoker. So, yeah. Anyway, Washington Sportsman Show. We will be there all week. Large size booth. Find us in the main building. And yes, seminar Saturday, 4 p.m. And if you attend the seminar, at the end of the seminar, Tommy, we are handing out a coupon for 15% off all items in our FHN booth for Saturday afternoon. So you come attend the seminar, learn some things about a different method, different style of fishing when you're talking reservoirs and big lakes and larger bodies of water for kokanee and large rainbows. We're going to give you a coupon when you leave the seminar. Stop by our booth. You're going to get 15% off at checkout. Shing will take 15% off. So you spend $200 on items, you're going to pay $170.
That's beautiful.
You're saving some serious money on our backs.
I don't think I've ever seen an incentive associated with seminars. That's great.
Well,
I like that.
I got to fill the seats somehow.
Yeah. I was like, hey, where's my coupon for the boat show?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll talk about that. Then, of course, we have the Northwest Sportsman Show down outside of Portland at the Expo Hall, February 15th through the 19th. Probably do the same thing in regards to offering you folks down south there the opportunity to save some serious money on the FHN swag. So we'll be doing the same seminar down there as well. I'm sure it's going to go over pretty well. And people, it's a topic that I get random questions on from time to time because people are intrigued. Like, how do I get started in this? Or what do I need to do to get going on this? And so I'm going to walk you through that process. But we're looking forward to both of them. Again, February 1st through the 5th, and then the 15th through the 19th. And we will be there every day, all day. And Jordan is going to be there in Puyallup with this fine box of jigs and many, many more. How many jigs are you going to plan to have? A couple thousand?
I heard 2,000.
I heard 2,000. A couple thousand jingling jigs.
That's it? Oh, those are rookie numbers.
Well, he's going to have Steelhead. He's going to have his Rufus Woods triploid twitching jigs, Rufus Woods package, and then of course the coho twitchers as well. So come see Jordan at our booth. He should be there every day in Puyallup, and he'll be selling jigs. So Tom, you got a boat show coming up.
Yeah, we got a boat show. I'm giving seminars there February 3rd through the 11th. I think mine are Friday, Saturday, Sundays. 5 different seminars, 2 completely brand new seminars.
From you got 5 to do?
I got 5.
5 different topics?
5 different topics. I'm covering it all. I got salmon, halibut, tuna, jigging, and then I think the one that people are really going to like is the saltwater calendar, which is going to be basically month to month. What are all of the opportunities in the state of Washington? Yes. Yeah. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Going to cover it all just in one seminar. So yeah, come see us at the boat show. I'm also going to be at the Ray Marine booth too. Yep. And there's some new product coming out. I don't know if you talked to Mike Surdick yet, but there's some state-of-the-art, cutting-edge, new stuff from Ray Marine coming out. going to hit the market this year. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, no, I am. I hope to make it up there at least for a day. Maybe sit in on one of your seminars so you can, make fun of me. And then
hey, I don't do that.
No, ever. And then talk with Mike and hang out at the Ray Marine booth and just check out the new products coming too that they've unveiled. So it's going to be a lot of fun, good time. With that, prior to the Sportsman Show, remember, if you are in possession of a winter crab card and have not yet reported, prior to February 1, you're required to report your catch record card of winter crabbing, which you have a few in your possession, so I'm sure you have to get that in. But
already done.
Okay, had a kid. So get that in. It's easy. Get online. It's never been so simple to get online. If you have not opened your account with WDFW, you are way behind the times. It makes it so easy to sit at your desk or your phone and literally submit your reports. It's just that simple, okay? So you got your winter crab reporting that is due. And then something that kind of caught the attention here, Tommy, the last couple of days, and I don't know if you had time to wrap your eyes around this, but I posted this also up on our Facebook page. Senate bill, we are back in ledge session. Started Monday, January 9th, right? They opened the ledge session. Apparently this is going to be a pretty lengthy session. Might take them clear into mid-April. So lots to go about there. As we progress here next several weeks, we are going to probably start picking away at some of this budgetary items coming from Inslee's office and others that are weighing in on WDFW's budget, because as we all know, the trickle down of that is what we do or don't get.
That's right.
So it's important to kind of keep track on that, and Tommy, you and I the last couple of years have done that for the folks, so we can kind of see how this is shaping up. And once we get done with that, we just roll right into north of Falcon, and then we truly start seeing what 23 is going to look like. Let me back up here.
There's a lot of money on the table too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's money being thrown out there verbally anyway. Yet to see if this will all come together. But one thing that was news release by CCA and others pushing it out there to say, and what caught my attention, Tommy, was the first line or two in this press release. Today, by request of Governor Jay Inslee, Senate Bill 5297 was introduced in the Senate to eliminate non-tribal gill nets from the Columbia River with strong bipartisan support. And I was like, this came from the governor's office to push this out there? Now, look, Senator Kevin Vandeweghe is the sponsor of this bill. Interestingly enough, Monday morning, 11:30 a.m., I'm going to be in Senator Kevin Vandeweghe's office.
Perfect.
I have a couple topics I'd like to sit down and talk to and about with the senator. I have some things I'm working on that I want to present to him, and if everything goes according to my masterful plan, we can hopefully generate a bill and see if we can introduce some of this stuff. But that's the process, right? If you just sit on ideas or don't have those discussions, nothing ever happens. And we strongly talk and advocate for people here to pay attention. And you know what? Get a hold of your representatives, get a hold of your senators, get a hold of persons in certain positions that, and Senator Vandeweghe is involved on the Senate committee who then looks at the commissioners who are appointed by the governor, and they either confirm them or not with him and his committee, right? So there may be a discussion about future methods of how we select commissioners. Let me just say that. Okay.
I like that.
Working on a few things. And also, to kind of take a look at this region and how we're managing steelhead and things like that. So,
I mean, one of the discussion topics that you should have is, talk about the hatchery production and how are those hatchery fish taken out of the river system as designed if you're reducing the gill net number in the Columbia? How does that work? How do they see that working? Where I get concerned is they say, well, Wild Fish Conservancy's got a great idea. We're going to put, net pens and weirs in the Columbia River. To me, that's a red flag. So I am curious, kind of, what does the full story look like?
Yeah, I mean, there is that component to it. The commercial side of things, if you're removing all the gill nets, then what's the next move?
Right.
What's the next cog in the wheel? What's the buy-off here? How does this all work? I mean, we're all in agreement in the room and beyond that non-discriminate harvest is long overdue to do away with, but there has to be a means of some type of commercial harvest.
Right, and what does that mean for the tribal component?
Exactly. So there's a lot of questions to be answered. They're feeling pretty good about this announcement, the direction that it's going. There's a lot of support for this. We've We've dipped our toe in this and gone back and forth for years now. I mean, we were heading way that way, and all of a sudden Washington pulled way back and reintroduced them into the main stem, and you know, took them out of exclusively the safe areas, recognized safe areas, and Oregon's been holding strong on not putting them back in the main stem. So there's always been a point of contention that you and I have covered for the last couple of years. So this again just kind of brings it to the surface to say, hey, we're introducing a bill to get rid of these non-tribal gill nets in the main stem Columbia. I'm curious to see where this goes. And again, the thing that caught my eye was the request from the governor's office, or from Governor Jay Inslee. And I'm kind of like, there's something going on here.
And that was the release from CCA.
Yes.
So CCA wrote it. And
wrote this, the one I have here. They wrote this.
And as they wrote it, they said request from the governor's office.
Yeah. But I also saw it in other, and they may have people may have been copying and sharing and taking off the CCA, the title work there. But, you know, there's a lot of names in here. There's a lot of players. And the sponsor of the bill, Senator Vandeweghe, I got some questions for him. I just want to kind of dig into this a little deeper.
Yeah, you bet.
Anyway, things to come in the next couple of weeks. So there you go. That's pretty much what we had to get through. Little hiccup along the way, but we got there, and I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Glad to be back in studio. Always fun, Tommy, to get in here and try to get the info out.
Absolutely, yes indeed.
Lots coming up. So I am heading east with the boys bright and early tomorrow morning, and hope to bring that content to you guys in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. And other than that, we just keep plugging along here.
We will, and I'm headed south, way south.
You're heading way south.
More to come on that later.
Way south, yes indeedy. And I'm seeing if I can pin down one or two guests here next week that we're having some discussions, some really good stuff that we want to get out there on some of this North Puget Sound Steelhead stuff and activity going on. So
perfect.
More to come on that. All right, that's going to do it for us this week here from the studio, Fish Hunt Northwest. Have a great weekend, everybody. Please stay safe. Lots of rain coming and opportunity to go out and do a few things. So whatever it is you choose to do it safe and have a great week. And we'll see you back here next Thursday live, 6 p.m. at the Fish Hunt Northwest studio.